Alright, so we've been moving some stuff around because what we're going to be doing next is a camper repair. Not our motorhome, but it's a camper that we had bought it, and my son wanted it, so we sold it to him for what we had in it. And
I have to interrupt here because there's parts of the story that I realized I didn't explain. We bought this camper years and years ago. We had it for a long time, and then it developed a water leak. So my mom wanted to use this camper, and so did her husband. And I told them, it had a roof in the bathroom at the vent. I said, if you take care of the leak, you can go ahead and use it. Well, that was supposed to be temporary. It turned into 2 years. When they returned the camper to us, not only was that vent leaking again, but it had developed other leaks, and they left the slide out for almost 2 years. So all of the water damage that we're going to see in this camper is due to neglect and the fact that my mom and her husband took this camper and didn't bring it back in the same or better condition than when they took it.
alright, so here's his camper. It's a 34-foot Rockwood, and here's the problem. This is just completely gone. So the awning's no good, so he just cut that loose. We're just gonna throw it away and replace it later. We're gonna run the slide out completely, and we're gonna disconnect it and then remove it from the camper so we can get to what is back here, which isn't much right now. This camper is going to go to his property in West Virginia and just go down there and stay. It's not going to be used on the road, but we need it to get good enough to use this time for the truck show. And then once it gets down there, it'll get a roof put over top of it, so this won't be an issue no more, and the slide will stay in till they need it. All right. So here's the problem. It's an aluminum frame camper, but around this opening, for some reason, they put OSB. And the only way that is tied in is just these are screws coming down through the aluminum into the OSB. And it's like that all the way across here. I don't know why in the world they'd be like that. Is there anything else down this way? Is there more aluminum? There's an aluminum channel that encases the slide out. Look at that. We're almost to the FRP. Let's see what's back here. Run that in just a little bit. Switch it backwards. Okay, that's good. I can see daylight right there. Right there. Okay, well, we'll get the trim off of this. Take all these loose, these little buttons, take this trim off. We're going to disconnect the slide and get it out of here. This slide only has 12 volts in it, and apparently speakers. We'll have to find the wiring for that. Oh, that might be 110. I don't know. Whatever. We'll find the wiring. Hey, we'll find it one way or another. So the next thing we have to do is get all this sealing material. All these staples have to come out because there's still a flange on this. Like the wall of the slide is this big, but there's this flange out here that holds the seal. So we have to get all these staples out through here, and then all these square drive screws have to come out, which go into the aluminum. The piece of wood here that's supposed to stop it from coming out all the way around, we have all that off now, and now we're building some cribbing underneath so that we can support it, because we're going to hold this with the skid steer. So this is what we're using to support the outside. We're running two 2x4s standing up all the way out there, all the way to the other side, and then we're going to run the slide out and then disconnect this drive. This is the drive shaft from the electric motor. We have the electric disconnected. It was butt spliced, so we just cut it. We'll just solder it back in when we're done. So once we get the slide out where we want it as far with the motor, then we're going move the skid steer, and we'll support it here. And I've got these big blocks here that we're going to put underneath this edge right here, and we'll support that as well. And then we're going to lift it with the skid steer and back it up. That's as far as we need to go. We need to get in here to work on that. So, you know, rather than take this out, Brandon suggested we just leave it there. There's no sense going any farther. It doesn't need to. We're just going to put some jack stands under my skid steer or cribbing or whatever, just anything to keep it from floating down so we don't bend the tracks. We shouldn't, but we got plenty of room now. We should be able to get all this cleaned up now. You can see what the problem is here. There's just nothing left. Okay, so we can start taking this apart now. Next thing we got to do is take this seal out here. It is, this part hooks on this, and this has to come off because it laps around this trim. We need to get this trim off. So we got to take that seal off all the way around the whole entire thing here. What is that?
Wow, that's some thick OSB.
Yeah, it didn't start that way.
Well, I know, from the water is what I mean.
So I don't want to go too far because there's a, I don't know if you can see that. There is a
Aluminum.
Yeah, there's an aluminum stud right here, and that's where I want to go to. So probably wouldn't hurt to, because this is actually pretty decent down here. It gets stronger. We probably need to find the edge of this and make a mark, and then run a saw down it this way so we can get a good straight accurate line where it's going to go, because we've been working on a plan what we're going to do here. It ain't so bad. I mean, it's bad, but for the repair side of it, I think we're going to be okay. We got to cut all these screws off that went through this. I think this is 4-inch box tube, so we're going to have to get all of these. That's what was holding that lumber up, and the slide was pushing against that. Not here, but here. Just find that hard to believe. This will come much cleaner when it dries out. You know, all this will be able to come off real easy. Like this here. We'll be able to get all that cleaned up. We got an idea. Look, there's 3 of them. Must be how they tied it all together. Okay, let's get this handled now. We have all of the old rotted material out, and we've cut the wall back to where we have a good stud here. We don't really care about this finish trim here because I have a plan what we're going to do here, so I'm not concerned at all. But when this, well, first off, what they used up here was an engineered lumber. This was not just regular, you know, soft pine. This was this engineered beam. It's 1 inch thick, plus the inside paneling that was on it, and the outside 5-pon, whatever it's called. But this engineered lumber, the reason they use it is because it's extremely stable and strong. So this opening that's in here is 12 foot 4 inches long. Okay, so it's quite an opening. So when you have that slide in there and you put the slide out and it rests on these tracks, but it also needs this up here to help stabilize it, because there's no support out there on the ends of those tracks. So it uses the wall here, and as it goes out, it pushes against here. So this has to be strong, because if it's not, you know, you'll have exactly what I'm doing here. That's what will happen. So when they build these, they use that engineered lumber, and they would build this entire wall out of aluminum, weld it all together, on a table and a jig, and they would run all the wiring that needs to go through it, get it all in and cut and done. If it needs to be inside, I don't think there's any wiring on this wall if I remember right, just the exterior lights. And I think they all have like little places like that with boxes around it. But anyways, they would build it on a table, put the outside skin on, put this LVL in here and glue the LVL to here, and then they would screw it down through this box tube. This is 1x4 box tube, and screw it into that LVL, and then after it's insulated, put the inside covering on and either use a press roller to roll across the whole entire outside wall to press it all together with either epoxy or some type of adhesive, probably I assume epoxy, and that would sandwich that together and make this one unit and make it extremely strong. So when you add water to it, obviously it breaks down the adhesive, starts to rot away the wood material, and causes this issue. So now we see what the damage is, what the effects are, but now we have to find the cause. And if you look, you can see how the water comes in here all the way across, and there's places it's darker than others. And one bad thing about box tube is if you get water inside that tube, everywhere there's a hole, it's gonna find it, and it's gonna rot and wick down in that framing member. Now if you look here, the most of the damage was concentrated in this area right here, and what we had was a previous roof damage right here, where this has been hit with a tree limb, and on the roof too, and you can see there's 2 layers of roof repair there, and it probably really should have that taken apart and the roof redone, but it's just not that valuable of a camper. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take this is the channel that holds the awning, slides in here, that goes over top of this slide out. We're going to take this off and get everything cleaned up on the gutter and here, and when we put our new framing member in, we're going to screw through this trim. After we reseal it, we'll put this in place. We're going to screw through this into our framing members back here, because that is just about right here. So we should be able to get able to screw through here, or maybe even through the aluminum itself, and get our framing member, but we have to order that. This is only 1 inch thick, so we'll have to order something to go in there. I have some ideas what we're going to do. It just depends on how long it's going to take. So the next step is, and we have to take a wire wheel and get this all cleaned up, because we're going to try to use adhesive, probably an epoxy, and glue this to our frame members again. We're not so much concerned about an inside finished material, because if we do, we do. If not, not. But that's the next step. We've gone as far as we can go in this right now, and we've got all this taken off, and my wife's gonna start cleaning this up right now. That's her thing. It's not like we pawn stuff cleaning off on her. That is her thing, and she enjoys it. She likes taking things that look horrible like this and turn them into something that looks nice. So she's gonna start working on this. We have a spot where that gutter is crushed, so I'm gonna see if I can spread that out. We're gonna try and clean these gutters out too, and I'm gonna get on the roof and get a look at it. So this is a transition from the bathroom to the bedroom, and the floor right in here is broken. The flooring is glued to styrofoam and then glued to a panel on the bottom, and it is real weak right there. So we're gonna take the bed frame out. We're gonna replace the carpet anyways, so we're gonna take all this out, and then we're gonna cut open the floor and then tie these two back together where they've broken, screw it and glue it. Then we're gonna put new laminate floor in here. So you decide to do work on your RV, be prepared for your garage to look like this, because this is what it always snowballs into. I'll show you what I mean. So it doesn't matter if we're building trucks, if we're building chicken coops, if we're fixing a camper, or fixing bicycles. Whatever we're going to do, we're going to take it as far as it needs to go to be as fixed the best way we can, the best way we know how. So, that being said, here we are. So what ended up happening was I got on the roof and I found where apparently there was a leak at some point in the front two corners where the roof rolled around to the trim, and someone had went to the hardware store and got silicone sealer, and I'm sure they thought that was a great idea. The problem is you just can't use anything on a rubber roof because it just won't stick. That's why they make this stuff called Dicor lap sealant. It is intended to be used on the rubber roof and adhere to it, as well as adhere to the trim. And it stays flexible, which is important because this thing's constantly racking. So both corners are done the same way. So we took and dug all that silicone out, and I cleaned it up with mineral spirits. And once it was clean and dry, I came back in with new lap sealant and sealed everything back up. Now, that doesn't mean we've got all the leaks. That just means we found those. When it was leaking, you can see the two spots right there where it's been cut apart. And it was coming down the sides here and hitting that compartment and coming around and then hitting the floor, this side being the worst. So when we got that part fixed, when it was leaking, this floor is nothing more than a big wick. So if it gets wet over here, if it keeps getting wet, it just soaks in across the whole floor. This is more of that same engineered floor. A 1/4 inch lawn on top, the aluminum cross members, and then styrofoam between them, and then a layer on the bottom, all glued together. So as a unit, it's strong for a minute. But as soon as you get to where a high traffic area like this, remember that bed was right here, and you can see where look at that. That is exact imprint of somebody's foot, and you would have to turn this way to get around it. That's a lot of stress on that floor. So obviously the styrofoam and the Luan separated from each other. Now you've lost strength. So not only was our floor bad, but the styrofoam had come loose from the floor even probably before it got the water leak. It was probably soft there. So our plan is we've got everything cleaned up now all the way to the edges, and we've picked up some plywood. We're going to use 5/8 plywood on here. And what we're going to do is I have to do some interesting things here because you can see the wall is sitting between the two cross members, which is unfortunate. But I have an idea to fix that, how we can do it, so that's what we're going to do there. And we're going to let this continue to dry out. It's almost 100% dry now. I mean, it was black, wet before. So we're going to let this dry out. We got a couple days of rain coming. Once we've verified we're not getting any more water in here, then we're going to go ahead with putting it back together. And we'll spray this down with bleach water and a weed sprayer just to make sure we have all and any mold taken care of. And we're gonna use expandable foam between the gaps of this, and where it has shrunk or just didn't fit well, whatever the case, we'll clean out all that gap real good, and then we'll expandable foam everything, get it back together. We're going to screw and glue down our new flooring, but we'll pick up next time putting this together. It's been a lot to do. We found the effects. I think we found the cause. We do have a leak underneath that window that we're going to have to address as well. I'm just a little bit limited because we can't get that bed platform out right now, so we're going to have to get it set back down and move before we can do any more on the front. But rest assured, we'll get it. We got our LVL figured out what we're going to do up there, so we got that. We're going to order that today, and then we can get back at this as soon as we know it's good to go. So that's part one. Part two will be coming pretty soon. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one.